Oh boy, I took a break. So August was taken off because I was on a month-long project. September was taken off in support of IATSE. And now that it's October, it seems like IATSE has reached an agreement of sorts. So hopefully it's okay. I also wanted to make a double feature joke, but I'm now covering 3 months, which kind of actually works because there's 3 American Horror Stories things to kind of, except not because I ran out of time, but let's just get started. Okay. It's a little too goofy for my liking, but the idea of following Destiny's Child reuniting after some years apart, going through the ups and downs of your middle-age years, it's a good idea, and it's such a talented cast. It does seem like a show that I could potentially grow into. I also might be a little down on it, if only just because... Oh yeah. Yeah, this show's great. Muslim female punk rock band, just tearing holes into Muslim stereotypes while being a hilarious gut punch and roller coaster. It's like only 6 episodes. It's tightly written. It's a show that I think a lot of people will be surprised at how much of it slaps so hard. Just watch it. I'm glossing it up a lot. Just watch it. It's honestly really so hard to talk about Rick and Morty without feeling like you're going to massively derail the conversation. And I don't even know what would derail into. It's just this general vibe of going to cause trouble, which sort of discourages me from like talking about the show in any meaningful way. But here I go. I liked it. I mean, I didn't like the incest baby episode, but I don't know anyone who did. Overall, I found this season really effective in contributing to both of the title characters' character development, breaking down both of their walls bit by bit, even at times with like no jokes whatsoever. And then the finale delivered both the necessary world building to continue on with enough emotional resonance so that it just didn't feel like they were doing it for the hell of it. Good job. WandaVision explored using sitcoms as a coping mechanism, and Kevin Can F himself uses sitcoms to explore marital abuse. And while it maybe got a little too comfortable in that sitcom environment that they wanted to satirize, and also the main storylines kind of just spins its wheels a little, I still liked it a lot. I like where the show seems to be going given the ending of the first season, and despite the main plot lines never really colliding in a way that felt satisfying, and the motivations of characters besides Sheila sort of felt super flimsy overall, but for the most part, good show. It's a lot. It's a lot.
A lot of what?
A lot. Lots. Lots. Big lots. To me, the only issue is perspective. Ed Helms, in the protagonist role, even as an anti-hero stand-in, is Nathan Rutherford, who wants to do everything in his power to preserve his family history and influence over the town he is named after at any cost, even if he butts heads with the indigenous community's interest. And the antagonist, just by how the show frames them, they are the antagonists because they want what's rightfully theirs from the Rutherfords, are the indigenous community. Now, the show's way more nuanced than that. It's not just simple bad guys versus good guys. So obviously, when you watch it, you can clearly see that what Terry Thomas wants for the indigenous community isn't unreasonable at all. And what Nathan Rutherford wants is largely self-interested and usually glossed up with his goofiness. And it is a very successful show at presenting us a glimpse at the indigenous community and their issues with land, representation, authentic voices, you name it. But it also presents the other side, the what about me perspective from a goofy white man, and that perspective is front and center. One white dude's perspective does not need to take center stage for this show. Terry Thomas needs to take center stage for this show. Regan needs to take center stage for this show. More indigenous characters need to just simply exist for this show to really, really work. The show is good, and the show does a good thing, but I don't think it's good enough. The show reminds me of when I was younger and I would just watch a bunch of classic musicals with my parents, like Hello Dolly, The Sound of Music, The King and I. And that feeling of nostalgia is sort of what drew me into this show in the first place. And at the end of the day, this show is just a really, really well done musical show. The things it does really well elevate it, and the tropes that it play with don't hold it back. What else is there to say? It's a love letter to classic musicals and the music that made them. Lily James and Emily Beecham are great, as expected. But the entire time I just kept thinking to myself, man, I really could just be watching My Brilliant Friend, and I'd probably get way more out of it. Deadly Arctic Thrillers and AMC. Name a more iconic duo. Alright, you remember the one on Netflix? The kind of mediocre show about knowing who your one true love is? Well, so they did that already on AMC. 5 months before the one. And it is a better show. It's not perfect, but it is more the thing I wanted from the one. Episode 2 is the only weak one. The rest are solid. Do you like Bob's Burgers? Do you like cutesy animated musicals? There's your answer. Despite the abundance of things to talk about when it comes to anything royal family, you know? Like, you could literally talk about anything. This show manages to say almost nothing. That's pretty impressive, actually. While it is good and Joshua Jackson is frightening as all heck, I have that feeling I get when I'm watching adapted material that is just something all the podcast listeners have an in on and that I just won't get because I am not familiar with the crimes that this guy committed. I might have gotten my hopes up just because what I liked about last season was how much a character the city of New York City was. And the episodes that don't take place in New York this season, I kind of just have a bias against. But besides the less New York, it's still a pretty mediocre batch. Here are the episodes that were good. The rest are okay. There are a lot of things to take away from the show, and it really is a strange mosaic of rich perspectives nestled inside this Hawaiian resort. I really got a lot out of it, but I do know the reception of it has been very mixed, and I kind of get it. But very much like the Hawaiian Islands themselves, there's a lot more going on beneath the surface. And we thought we had it beat out of us, you know? The Hunger Games, Battle Royale thing that made up the early 2010s. 3% on Netflix, the Brazilian show, try to do something with that concept again, and ultimately I don't think it knew what to say. But here we are at the dawn of a new decade with a bunch of underdogs trying to compete to the death about how we really do be living in a society sometimes. And how did they do? Well, I think this show nailed it. Man, this show used to be fun. Seasons 1 and 2, they were campy as hell, and it was great. Now it's like camping, but you're setting the goddamn woods on fire. I dropped halfway through season 4, and then I'm dropping halfway through this season. It's just so ridiculous. Also, shame on you, Netflix, for only releasing part 1 of part 2. This is just dragging it out. The first half of the season is good. It's funny when it needs to be. It's a bit meandering. Definitely not spoon-feeding you aspects of indigenous culture. And like you're along for the ride, and it's in like all the four main kids. You feel like you know them the second that they show up on your screen. It's great. And then you feel the back half of the show expand these already richly developed characters. And then the show falls further into like that meandering vibe. It's a slice of a lifestyle a lot of folks don't think about a lot, with characters you feel like you've hung out with forever. So, out of the 4 flagship shows that premiered when Apple TV first launched back in 2019, this was the only show that I felt was like kind of missing the mark. Like, it had some incredible cinematography and great fight scenes, but the story left a lot to be desired. I did not expect to want to return to season 2. But then Jonathan Tropper comes on full-time as executive producer. And not only that, these two from Warrior, which is my 3rd favorite show last year, are also in this. So, got me curious. It's actually an improvement. The world's bigger, the cast is bigger, the cast is an ensemble essentially, and the Queen's character I can actually at least kind of understand now. It's way more cohesive than the previous season. The combat and battle elements are still top notch, and I'm left wanting more from future seasons, which is a nice change of pace. I don't know who this dude is. I don't know why I watched it. I had no expectations. It has a very good flow to it, though. Every now and then I stumble upon a docuseries, and I generally like most of them. I just don't seek them out, really. They just sort of stumble into me. But this one's really good, especially since it's only 3 episodes and doesn't drag out. I feel like a lot of docuseries tend to do that, much like this speech. Bye. I might have had some reservations just due to the last Kidman-related thing being not good. And honestly, a lot of stuff from the Big Little Lies alumni since that show, if it's not perfect, it's really tedious. So I was pleasantly surprised by this show. I mean, it's not perfect. But it might just be worth it for its very good portrayal of grief. Also, Bobby Cannavale, Melissa McCartney have like unexpectedly great chemistry. Oh no, they made a mistake, guys. That silly Apple company, you know, that multi-trillion, billion, whatever. They made a dumb little mistake. They called the show a comedy. Oh no, that's gonna have some repercussions. Oh no. After season 1, I don't think anyone really expected season 2 to be what season 2 was. It's definitely way less funny, but way more character driven. I still really enjoyed it. Ted sort of took more of a backseat for a little bit while the rest of the characters got fleshed out. And at the end of the show, I really felt like I really felt pumped going into season 3. I still don't like any of the dating app storylines. They added nothing to me. Alright, I kind of want to watch the original show now. If the idea of Jessica Chastain and Oscar Isaac emotionally destroying you with just conversation in any way appeals to you, go for it. They're both excellent. All the words they're saying are excellent. Really recommend this one. In August, I was working on a film, and for about half the movie, we drove nearly an hour to location. And during transit, I would put in my headphones and listen to music, and the rest of the car, 3 New Yorkers, would listen to true crime podcasts, and I never got it. And here comes a show about 3 New Yorkers obsessed with true crime podcasts, and it's pretty good. There's a playfulness and a sympathy to it that I never got just from listening to true crime podcasts. I mean, the charm that oozes off the 3 main talent alone is enough to make me put on some gloves and start solving crimes of my own, you know? It's way too campy for my liking. Your mileage may vary for this show, but if you're a fan of slasher horror movies and you want some more modern elements in them, like content houses, give it a shot. Okay, so after Bly Manor sort of fell flat for me, it's really good to see an improvement from Flanagan and Co. after freeing themselves from the restrictions of being part of like the Haunting franchise, which was not really a franchise to begin with. It's not perfect, it drags a little, but dang, it's a good entry to this spooky season, which as of recording this is almost over. Anyway, yeah, this is a lot like Midnight Mass, right down to the same genre of monster, obsession with blood, addiction discussions, useless cops who leave the big city to come somewhere where nothing happens, crazed homeless people, pregnant women. Really, the main difference is Midnight Mass has a hot priest, and AHS has a little violin protege with absolutely zero chill. They're both good. Midnight Mass has a little more to say about religion. AHS has something to say about creativity and the sacrifices you make for that creativity. Also, 6 episodes doesn't drag at all. I am getting certain vibes, maybe of these shows. Believe it or not, these all are very similar shows. Even a show like this one, it's still not all men, because there's just one more dude left. Misogyny is alive and well. Season 1 of The Morning Show was rewritten to address Matt Lauer's allegations, and Season 2 has also been rewritten to address the pandemic. Season 1 took about 4 episodes to get going and find its footing, and Season 2 is unfortunately kind of doing a similar thing. So maybe Season 3, they will finally write the show that they really want to. After so long, the big suck has returned. I wasn't too hot for Succession season 1 or even season 2, which really sucked for me just because I could see it was worthy of all the praise it was getting, and I liked a lot of it, but it just never really clicked with me. But I did have the thought while I was watching it, man, this show would be better watched week to week. And I think I'm right on that. And so far this season is very good. Okay, so nobody liked this show, but I really do. It's not perfect, but I really do like this show. I think people need to give it a fair squeeze. Oh well.